Howdy neighbor, how is your garden growing? Today in my garden, what we're going to be talking about is Florida vegetables and what works. So join me today if you're looking for some inspiration on which varieties you might want to consider adding to your Florida vegetable garden. So let's talk tomatoes and what worked really, really well for me this season, and it has to be 4th of July hybrid tomatoes from Beet. Now I know not all of us are big fans of picking up seeds from the Home Depot, the Lowe's, the Walmarts, the Targets, and brands like Beet and Fairy Morris in general don't do great in our gardens. But that doesn't mean there aren't gems hidden amongst all those seed packets. And one of the ones that did amazing this past year was 4th of July hybrid. I have been growing 4th of July hybrid tomatoes for years, and every year, no matter how good or bad of a gardener I've gotten something out of these vines. And this year went absolutely insane. I planted these seeds on time, but then I really challenged my starts by being super late and putting in the ground. Like, they got down to tiny little sticks. They looked pathetic. And I actually, when I shoved them in the ground really late, I believe it was in like late November, I was pretty much like, they're dead. I'm gonna get back from Thanksgiving and I have a trip in early December, and I'll just, I'll reset seeds at that time. But shockingly, my negligence didn't kill them. And then I thought, well, okay, well, they're doing good, but I'll start some other seeds because clearly these plants have had a bad start. And in spite of how badly I dealt with those starts, these things produced. When it comes to just this variety on my trellises, this produced probably the majority of the tomatoes I got this year. I got a lot of different varieties, but this one, when it just came to quantity, size, and just like pumping out tomatoes, it was amazing. Now this tomato is an indeterminate vine, so it will get about 8 feet tall. Maybe it got up to 9 in spots, but it really sat mostly in the 7 to 8 foot range. It puts out tomatoes that are about, what's this size? Like 4 to 6 ounces. So whether you grow them as a fall crop or you do them as tomatoes for the spring crops, like they just like produce and produce and produce. They didn't have any issues with pest pressure, mold issues. I don't know what all the other issues are because I generally don't get tons of issues with tomatoes. Really, the sun intensity combined with just the massive drought we're having right now, because my area is about a foot behind on rain from the previous year, that's kind of what just kind of like, they were done in my area. Overall, this one has been really successful. So much so that like when I saw these packets, I think at Target in the spring, I was just like, I'm gonna grab some more. So if you're considering looking for an easy tomato that produces nice bunches, I've used them in tomato sauces. I made salsas with them. I made caprese with them. I made bruschetta with them. I don't remember all the things I made with them. I don't remember all the things, but we made a lot of things with these tomatoes. We froze them and used them in canning. We've done all the things with them. And honestly, I would highly recommend that if you want to get started with tomatoes, this is a great one that's going to produce quite a bit. So my next pick, you might have heard me talk about early treat tomatoes back in my fall planting video, and they did honestly pretty solid. They weren't as productive as the 4th of July tomatoes. They also went through a very hard time with me like not doing so great with the seedlings at one point, but they were pretty solid. Now these ones produced a tomato that was a little bit bigger than the 4th of July's, which might have been why it didn't put out as many tomatoes. So if you're looking for something that has a little bit more oomph to it, a little bit more meatier versus like the 4 to 6 ounces, this one's kind of got more that 6-7 ounces. They were a little bit on the bigger side. They still made bunches and they were really good. But I found that these starts, as much as I abused them, were less resilient to my massive amounts of abuse. These ones were also more notorious for making like weird shapes. Hi, butterfly. These ones were more notorious from having like little like funky tails or beaks on the tomatoes. I'm not really sure what's causing that, but it was a thing that I noticed over and over again. But it still made really good tomatoes. They didn't have any issues overall. So if you're looking for another one that you can just snag from a Target, a Home Depot, and one of the big box stores, go ahead and grab early treat. Now, ones that I didn't start from seed or indirectly started from seed, of course, Everglades tomatoes. I've had Everglades tomatoes for years now. And if you have struggled with tomatoes and you want to grow tomatoes, then I highly recommend just get some Everglades tomatoes. You can get seeds online. There's lots of locations. And I have a video where I just like answer all the questions about Everglades tomatoes. all the questions, give lots of tips and advice on it. Other people gave lots of tips and advice. It's a really good video to go check out. But this one's one of those, like, you don't have to be really good. They take a little bit longer to start, but honestly, once you have them, you have them. And for me, this one, I'm gonna do less of it, I can tell, for fall, because we just had so much. The birds definitely were allowed to get a solid belly every day from them because I just could not keep up with the amount. And I put 8 in, and that was like too much. I think next year in the fall, I'm gonna only probably do 4 plants because it just was too much. Now this one was really great to use in things like corn salsa. I think I used a little bit in some of my canning recipes for bruschetta. Of course, we ate lots of these fresh. We put them with other recipes that use other things from our garden. They're really great, like just a pop of flavor. Of course, eating them fresh is just one of the best ways to eat them. So this one, a little goes a long way. So I didn't start everything by seed this year because I kind of struggled with getting plants in the ground on time because, you know, who doesn't have that happen? I did pick up starts from a local nursery, and there were 3 different varieties I tried, and all 3 I was a fan. And those were purple Cherokee, chocolate Cherokee, and black cherry. All of these I liked for different reasons. Well, I would say the chocolate Cherokee and the purple Cherokee, I think I like them equally. They put out bigger tomatoes than my early treats and my 4th of Julys. These ones were more towards the 8-ounce range during their prime time of season. I got more purple Cherokees than I did chocolate Cherokees. That may also be because I had more purple Cherokee plants. So I can't really 100% say. The chocolate Cherokee plant at times looks stressed out, but it's honestly, of the larger variety of tomatoes up front, is the one that seems to be going the longest. So I would say the purple Cherokees were just a little bit prettier. My mom was definitely weirded out by chocolate Cherokees because she kept thinking they weren't fully ripe because they do have a more brown look to them. And if you're going to be doing things where you're canning and stuff like that, and you don't want a ton of these causing it to change the color, I can understand why maybe like less attractive. But both of these were pretty meaty type tomatoes. When you have a lot of fresh tomatoes, you should be doing like lots of caprese. Oh, and fresh Greek salads. I mean, like, you want to be using tomatoes as fresh as possible, and those were just hands down in general, like, those were the ones. Now black cherries, they weren't a huge producer. Again, they were put in this bed with this trellis, which this soil's not as mature, and therefore it just stuffed all the tomatoes in that one, just kind of were a little bit slower. I had a really good compare and contrast of 4th of Julys because I planted the 4th of Julys here and in front at the same time, and they were both abused equally. And these ones have taken a lot longer to recover than those ones. So we just know that the soil's just not quite as mature in this area. Now the black cherries in this area produced some of my favorite tasting. These ones are about the size of a grape tomato, and if you really like sweet and tart, like they're kind of similar in flavor, I would say, to Everglades tomatoes, but the tartness is a little bit higher. They're really pretty. They're purple. So if you like a tomato that is on the sweet side and it's a little bit tartar, I would say, than like something like an Everglades tomato, this one's great. It's definitely one that I enjoyed eating more fresh and not really with anything or in anything. Also, this one I would consider if like you're doing something that's going to become like a sweet dish, like if you do like those tomato pies or tomato jams, like I would feel like this with the Everglades tomatoes kind of puts you right in that area of like they're sweet, they're tart, really almost like when they're fully ripe, almost like, ooh, is this a fruit? Is this a vegetable? Are vegetables fruit? Are tomatoes fruits? Now you may be wondering, why are we talking about this now? Isn't this early to be talking about what we should be considering for fall since it's June? And honestly, I think this is one of the perfect times to talk about it, whether you live in zone 8, zone 9, zone 10, zone 11, because we're really at the tail end of our classic vegetable season. So it's really important for us to capture what went well, what didn't go well, what do we want to do differently, so that as we head into fall, we have a better plan. We have improved year over year, or vegetable season over vegetable season, since our midpoint's kind of in the middle of the year. But you get what I'm saying. So documenting what you like, didn't like, what you want to change as you're still close to the season and not burnt out from the high heat, humidity, and sun of Florida is a really important thing. And that's why I wanted to do this with you guys. And also, which brings me to What went well for you? What things did you feel like went really well? What didn't? What would you do differently? What would you recommend to those who are starting for the first time? Go ahead and let us know in the comments. You guys are always amazing at sharing tips, vegetable varieties, giving encouragement to each other, and that's what makes us so great and is going to make us stronger and better year over year in growing food down here in the Sunshine State. So let's talk lettuce. This year I grew 4 different varieties of lettuce. I did a butter crunch, a romaine parish, just kind of like, or do I do Cosmo? Oh, I don't know. Let me check my planner. This is why it's really important to have planners, because I forget everything. Now that I got my 2023 planner open, I have my notes. So I grew 4 types of lettuce: Cosmo romaine, sweet Valentine romaine, outrageous romaine, and butter crunch romaine. All these were from the company Southern Exposure. This is not a lettuce packet, I know. Hold on, I'll be back. So between the 4 types, I found that Cosmo produced the least. Of the 4 lettuces that I used this last year, I felt like it was the tale of 2 green lettuces. My butter crunch lettuces produced the absolute most, which isn't a bad thing because I love butter crunch the most out of all the lettuces. And I would say Cosmo, which was a romaine lettuce, it produced the least. Now when it came to my 2 red lettuces, the sweet Valentine and the outrageous, I feel like they were pretty comparable, but I feel like sweet Valentine had a slight leaning of a win. So of the 4 of them, what I would do this coming year is I would probably just do more butter crunch instead of doing a green romaine. I'm definitely gonna do those 2 red romaines again. I really like them. They were really yummy, and it was really nice having all 4 going at once because we had really colorful salads all throughout like winter and into spring when the plants finally bolted and were, you know, right here. They were just done for. Let me be clear. I started seeds and trays on time, but I did not start seeds and beds on time because we were really late finishing these beds. So the lettuce definitely got started later than I should have had it. So it was a shorter season. But also, let's be clear, 100 pounds tomatoes, 10 pounds of lettuce, but we still saved a lot of money with lettuce. We had so much lettuce and tomatoes, we gave away stuff because I was just like, I can't keep up with all of it. All right, so that's my lettuce recommendations. Let's move into broccoli. So broccoli this year we did 2 types, Waltham 27 and, is that the number? Waltham 27 and DeChico. Both seed packets from Southern Exchange. Pretty much everything we got was Southern Exchange. Not Waltham 27, Waltham 29. I knew it was 20 something. Waltham 29. Of the 2, Waltham 29 in general came up better than DeChico. DeChico took a while longer. And when it came to the broccoli heads, Waltham produced more than DeChico. So again, I started late. I used my seedlings. So so what I'm thinking is this coming year, I'm gonna probably give them a good try again. I did like, actually one of the things I liked with both of these is that I overseeded and I started using the broccoli greens as a spinach substitute for my morning smoothie. And especially when they were young greens, great, loved them. Not when they got kind of like big and beefy and that, not as fun to use them for smoothies, but when they were little, oh yeah. Which might have made it a little bit harder for them to produce flowers for broccoli heads. And you know what, for us, it's more valuable to have spinach substitutes than it is to have broccoli heads, just based on quantity of what we eat. But if you were gonna choose between these 2 seed packets to try for yourself, I would definitely lean towards those Waltham 29s before I would try the DeChicos, just to ensure you have a better chance of getting a harvest. Now, when it comes to brassicas, one of my other ones that I did this year was kale, and I of course did Dino Kale, Lancinado Kale. It's still going. It's June. They're still going, and I'm in 10B, so that's pretty impressive. So overall, I would say definitely do Lancinado Kale, Dino Kale. But what? Overall, it was easy to start. I again abused all the starts when I put them in the ground. Didn't look good. Fun fact, learned that they will reroot on their stems. They're pretty young, which is interesting. We got tons of kale out of these beds. And it's really good for us because this helps reduce how much money we have to spend on our morning smoothie, which is something we drink every single day. So kale overall, big winner. If you're looking for a spinach substitute, especially if you use it for something like smoothies, then I would do like a lanceolate kale so you can get your vitamin K's. Because in general, what I have found is that spinach, there is such a small window to grow it. You have to kind of hit all your marks right for it to kind of do anything. And it's not as efficient of a plant for growing. So if you want kind of more soft greens, just grow broccoli and grow it more in abundance so you can just harvest it as greens. Potentially similar with kale. And then of course the bigger kale leaves can be used in things like stir fries and stews and soups in place of, you know, a traditional spinach. Let's talk carrots. Carrots. So the two that I have done in my garden is we continue to do the rainbow mix because my little children, they enjoy rainbow carrot. They don't enjoy eating it, they just enjoy the idea of planting it. The one that actually produces really well for my garden, and this is an old seed packet and I just keep reseeding it from flowers, is Short and Sweet. It's a burpee packet. I know you can't see it because it's torn open, but it is a burpee packet. You can pick these up at the Home Depots, the Lowe's. And this one has been really solid. I tend to leave them in way longer. I know they say 68 days to harvest, but I find the carrots are a little too short. And I tend to leave them in a little bit longer. I do a direct seeding, and these produce some decent sized carrots that we enjoy. We use our carrots in just eating them as snacks, and they are very tasty carrots. They're sweet. Okay, let me be clear about these Short and Sweets, because Ben would probably say this is probably the biggest selling point. I don't like carrots, but I like these carrots. I will eat these carrots fresh. Other carrots, I don't know how many times my mom tried to get me to eat baby carrots or whatever carrots from the store. Nope, not a fan. But these carrots, I like these carrots. So if you're not a big carrot person, you know, you might enjoy these ones. Another fun one that I did is, of course, beets. We like beets because it's a dual purpose plant for us. We use both the greens and we use the little, what do you want to call it? The root. And we use just Detroit Red. We have used the ones that come in like from the Burpee brand and Fairy Morris brand before. I don't remember which. We've probably done both over the years, but we of course now use Southern Exposure. Why? You might be wondering, why do I tend to lean towards them? They have really high germination rates, and that's kind of what they even claim. So they're usually in the 90th percentile for all their seeds. And that's what I found. And honestly, some of you might be out there thinking you're bad gardeners because you do the seeds and they don't pop up, but you might just have like not as great seeds. Different companies, how they manage their inventory will change how many of the plants will pop up. And with 90%, that means you put in 10 seeds and you'll get 9 plants to pop up. So consider. So back to this. Detroit Red, really like this. We use them for pickling. I'm going to be canning a bunch to pickle canning so that we can use them in pickled beet salads, which who doesn't love that? Oh, with some goat cheese. Gosh, so yummy. But then we also use the greens for, again, the smoothies. You'll notice a theme. There's a lot of smoothies and just smoothies. That's how we stay so young and fresh looking down here. If you didn't know, I'm 80 divided by 2. So let's now talk about peppers. We have lots of peppers. Our Cubanelle peppers, which I started from seed from Cubanelles I had bought, if that makes sense. I bought plants, planted them. I kept some of the seeds. I replanted. They did fine. I found that I needed more peppers. That's what it was. And I did not have enough seeds or time to order seeds. So I bought a lot of starts. And so this is where I went to the Home Depots, I went to the Lowe's, and I bought the peppers. If you were gonna do the same, the ones I have found that work the best, jalapenos, banana peppers, potentially have too many banana peppers, and Cubanelle peppers. Those are kind of my hands down. Consistently, they work, they do really well. It's a tie between whether I like using Cubanelles more or banana peppers more. I would, if you can find them at the store, either's good. We also do ají peppers or ají dulce peppers. Those ones, of course, I got the seeds from my neighbors, but you can pick them up online. Did I find them at Southern Exposure? I think I did. So ají dulce we've planted and grown for years. I didn't grow as many this year. We originally got our seeds from our neighbor, but I did pick up a packet because this fall I wanted to try these ones and see how these ones do versus what my neighbors gave me. I love these ones. They are definitely ones that like snacky peppers. That's what they are. You go grab your black cherry, you grab your Everglazed tomato, and then you grab your short and sweet carrot, and then you grab your ají dulce peppers. They're just like yum, 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 yum. They got a little bit of a bite. This is not like jalapeno spicy, no. But they do have a little bit of bite, so I do want to be clear about that. If you don't like any spice, I like spice. So they're just like, I tried pimento upon recommendation. It did not go well for me. I tried California Wonder again. I keep trying. They looked so good at starts. I put them in the beds up front. They did not go well. I accidentally received green bell peppers. They were labeled as jalapenos. They were not. Surprised, they were green bell peppers. And yet again, they did not do well. So, can you grow a pepper on these plants? Sure. But I did not grow an abundance of peppers. They did not pay for themselves. They did not spark joy in me. So, I don't know how much I would try these ones again. I have California Wonder seeds again, so I will try them again and see if I can get something going. But overall, those kind of classic bell peppers, they were generally a bust for me. But bananas, cubanelles, jalapeno, ají dulce, all those, big fan of. Onions, we did Texas early grano. I was a little late again and oh no, I made them in start trays and then lifed and I forgot to water them. So I killed them all. And unlike the other ones that I abused, more susceptible to die. So they did. Then I replanted them again in bed, remember very late because the beds weren't done and it took us a while. And those grew, they made onions. They didn't make a lot of onions. They're still growing, some of them. I blame this more on me than I do the Texas granos. I am interested in starting those again. I also did some bunching onions. We just did, I think, some evergreen ones. Plus, we just bought ones from the store. You know, you just go into the Publix. You buy the bunch of green onions. You cut them up. You cook with them. And then you take the bottoms, you shove them in the ground. I shoved a lot in the grounds. Those did great. What was interesting is one bed grew way bigger than the other. And I know someone in the comments said that's because one set was leeks and one set was from onions. That is not accurate because all of them were mixed together. People who are in my membership and see the weekly vlogs know they were all mixed together. And then I counted them all out, getting even more shuffled together. And then I just took and divided it in two, and half went into one bed and half went into the other. So there was no, this set went here. It was all mixed. And one set didn't grow as big and one set grew huge. So that just shows the difference in soils. Now, one of the things you guys might be wondering about is the fact that like I don't have a ton of different crops. Like you didn't hear any cauliflowers, you didn't hear any cabbages, you didn't hear, I don't know what else, radishes. Definitely not gonna hear radishes. I tried radishes one year, Ben was like, I don't like radishes. So I only grow them for the flowers now. But you're not hearing like tons and tons of different crops. And that is one of the things going into this year that I really focused on was simplifying to increase the quantity of single crops. So I could have more tomatoes, so I could have more kale, more beets, more carrots, and just have more peppers of everything, which was much more helpful when it came to reducing our grocery bill, being able to do canning, is because instead of having lots of little bits of things, we had lots of certain things. And then we could fill in the little bits with groceries. And I found that that was much more helpful this year than what I've done previously, whereas I grow a little bit more variety of crops, but I tended to be much less efficient with using them. So that's one of my strategies. Is it right? Is it wrong? It just is. And that learning really came from my review last year, as I really thought through all the crops, what went well, what didn't go well, what do I want to do differently. And one of the things I thought to myself is having little amounts come from more variety was not very effective for our household. Now this might work really well for you, and that's okay. There are more than one right way to do these things. You really need to start to learn about how you do things. And hopefully me sharing what I do helps you come up with your own game plan and think about what worked, what didn't work, and what you might do differently. I can't wait to read your comments down below and see like what it is that you guys found success with this year. I know I'll be definitely taking inspiration as I go into fall planning from your list plus my own. And after hearing all this list, if you're thinking to yourself, I'm so excited, I want to get planting right now, go ahead and check out the June Ultimate Garden Guide. It's going to go through the vegetables, the fruits, and the flowers that you should be considering for the month of June. And of course, what always keeps us on track, not only for the garden guide, but for taking notes on what went well, you can grab a Wild Floridian garden planner. We have them right here at www.wildfloridian.net/planner. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye.